We're going to start. Welcome to our Directors Roundtable. The mayor is unable to join us this afternoon. She is busy at work on the budget. So we're going to move ahead. We have an hour of flower power being brought to us by our very own Paul Merchant, who keeps our city beautiful. So Paul, you're on.
All righty. We're going to start our 2018 fall flower change out the Tuesday after Labor Day. And that consists of us start planting in about 2 weeks time period of planting flowers of over 26,000 pots of flowers we're going to the ground in the next 2 weeks after Labor Day. So
Speaking to this. Yeah, that's the magic.
Paul, did you say 26,000 flowers?
26,000 6-inch pots we're going to the ground.
And those are all installed individually by hand, so 26,000? Wow.
And a question we get a lot is when can they pick them up? Can they just come out and pull them out of the ground? That's in a September the 4th.
They will start, it'll be about a 6-man crew will come in and start pulling up flower beds at Fairhope section and the corners. All along sections is the first street we start on, and then we go from there each night, the next 3 nights.
So
We got it
people-
down, we can get it all changed out in 3 days.
But night is what time of night?
5 o'clock.
5 o'clock.
They'll start pulling up, and we just ask not to get in the men's way. They'll direct you where to go as far as we pull them up. You're not getting their way of pulling the flowers up. That just holds them up and keeps people from possibly just getting.
And Paul, these are the old ones that you're pulling out?
Yes.
That people are picking
A lot
out?
of good perennials in there. Lantana, coreopsis, are good flowers.
And the city can post more information about that too on Facebook, and
Sure.
we'll
Sure, most
make
definitely.
sure to share that.
The evening of September 4th, 5 o'clock, there will be usually a good crowd there to help the men do their job. So, and they'll prepare the beds for us, or for the crew that's coming in the following morning. And there's three-man crews with a truck and a trailer, and they'll start planting the flowers. The first crew is the ones who come in, they put what we call the border. Then they go to another corner, another crew comes behind them, and they put in what's called the height of the bed, which is the very middle, and then the third crew comes in behind them, we call the filler, and they'll fill in all the empty spots with a particular plant. Then the most important guy comes in, before that, the cleanup guy. He does all this sweeping of any dirt, things of this nature, puts some fertilizer down. Then the most important guy is the waterman, and he'll come around and water all the flowers in. So it's a vicious cycle. We do it every 3 months, every season. So.
And Paul, just to lead into your slides, you don't pick these flowers up at the local plant store, do you?
No, I wish we could do that. No, these flowers are kind of picked out. I'll start right now looking at what did well this summer and maybe use it again next year, and what did not do as well and not use it next year, and try to slide in some new varieties and try them out for our city, and some work, some don't work. So, but they come from anywhere from California to Michigan to Florida, and I try to get most of the plants, the seedlings, from climates like ours, which is California and Florida. Those nurseries may not always grow the same flowers that I need, so I have to get some from Michigan, things of this nature, or North Carolina. That's where the coreopsis come from that we're growing currently. So, but anyhow.
So what's on the schedule for fall?
What's on the schedule for fall, as we go through, we have some nice pictures that Richard and Wayne come out Friday and took of all this stuff, but it's a couple different varieties of marigolds. One's a French marigold, which stays small, and that's going to be our border. And then we have some Durango marigolds, which get taller, and they're going to the flower clock. And then we have zinnias, profusion zinnias, that go in the corners. And we have 2 new varieties of collias, never grown before, these varieties, and they're doing really well and are spreading impatient. You'll notice the hanging baskets that are going up tomorrow, actually, is a new plant called Thunbergia. It's kind of in the black-eyed Susie family, and it's going to be, as the weather cools a little bit more, it'll start flowering prolifically. But right now, it's not much color to see. But hopefully, it's one of those trial and error deals. If it works, is great. If it doesn't, we'll see. So. You want me to start the slides?
Sure.
All right, the first slide, that's called a chocolate mint Koya. It's new to the new to us and new to anyone.
That's beautiful.
So it'll be as part of what we call the height in the middle of the flower beds, and we have about 2,000 of those. All right, that is lobularia, and that's a great plant we had in the spring, and I'm trying it again for the, it's gonna go in the border of the green boxes. And these flowers are all grown for about 6 weeks. And the fall crop is one of the tougher crops to grow because you're trying to grow cool weather flowers in the middle of the dead summer. So it can be challenging, using shade cloths, things of this nature, trying to keep the temp down. All right, that's another picture of the Koyas. There's a yellow Koya in the back, and then the chocolate chip or chocolate mint Koya in the front right there. And once again, those will be in the height of the corners. And that's the spreading orange. They were in the greenhouse with shade cloth that I was growing begonias for, so they're not as flowering, but they will start putting more buds on as the season rolls along. All right, that is the begonias that were in the greenhouse beside the impatiens there. And they will also be a border plant for the green boxes.
And what color is the flower on those?
White.
White, okay.
Yes. And the only thing we're going to buy this year to go in is going to be some mums. That's the only thing we don't grow, but we're almost grow 100% of our flowers. Mums is about the only thing that we do outsource. Oh, that's a picture there of some coreopsis. In the background there is all the French marigolds that will be in the border. The coreopsis there, dealing with a living organism, they don't always do what they're supposed to do. And they're supposed to be a short. There's quite a, I told Richard to take a picture of this right here, because this is what you're dealing with sometimes when you're dealing with flowers. You don't always get what you think you're getting. And some are much too tall to do the job I wanted them to do. But we will make do and put them to good use. Oh, this is the Thunbergia that's hanging there in our greenhouses currently that will be going out on the streets tomorrow morning.
Will you take a second, Paul, and describe how you get the hanging baskets and how you get them hanging in full the way they are?
Yeah, most definitely. These are a sphagnum moss basket, and they're 20 inches, and we fill them with dirt, and we punch holes in the side. There's probably 28 plugs on the sides and roughly 10 to 12 on top. And that's what gets them real full, real fast. And we also have, we're using the spring mainly as a big 14-inch basket, but real deep. And it's got pre-made holes, and it's about, this tall, and it's a good basket, and we like it better because not to fight that moss, sticking holes in it. But we make it work.
So it's not just draping from the top. You're filling
No.
in all the way around
All
the
the
bulb.
way around. And those plants, like I said, would have probably covered the whole basket, but not being familiar with it, I went ahead, but it makes it fuller faster. And those baskets there have been growing probably about 8 or 10 weeks. And, once we get them in, they're small plugs, we put them in the basket, and then we start liquid feeding once a week, start looking out for bugs, start looking out for fungus, things of this nature. And so we spray as needed and, fungicide as needed. All right, this is where we can go as long as you want to go with poinsettias. All right, poinsettias have been in about 2 weeks now, so that's back in the middle part of August. And so they come in about a 2-inch size seedling. We have to put it under shade cloth because that's what's going to help them to grow is being in some shade. All right, they'll start growing. They have to be pot to pot. And as they grow up, once the roots get to the side of the pot, we pinch them. And that's what makes them shoot off the brackets so that makes it spread. All right, once again, so once the leaves start touching each other, we just spread them slightly because we want them to grow up and out. So once they grow about 3 more weeks, the leaves start covering again. When that happens, we do a final spreading, and that's what we want them to go up and out, not too high and not too wide. So that's going to give them the perfect size. And once they get to the size I want and start turning color, I will pull the shade cloth off, and that will stop them from growing. But what has to happen is they cannot have any light outside. If they get any light, they will not turn color. So any street lights, any light left on in the shop, it will affect the coloring of a poinsettia. So I'm always going and taping light switches and stuff like that, so the guys, when they come at night, don't turn on lights to affect it. I mean, but you can have, there's a street light on the street behind the greenhouse, and it will affect the back part of that greenhouse from coloring like it's supposed to. So, but they are a creature of their own. They're fertilized once a week, and you have to watch bugs all the time. And once again, you know, it's hot, and they're a tropical plant, which they like hot, but you just got to keep temperatures because you start going to the fall. If we have a cold snap early on, you got to make sure it does not get below, because the hours it goes below 55 is the extra hours of heat they have to grow properly, if that makes sense. It's important. If it's getting too cold, the greenhouse is shut up so they don't lose any heat to continue growing properly. But the light is critical for them to turn. So.
Now, you told Leslie there's something about the color of the stem.
I mean, I can tell which one's red and white.
Okay.
And you could too if you looked at it. There's like a little red line on this stem going toward the
Okay,
leaf.
and that's the red one.
That's the red one, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and the white one will just be solid white. So, but anyway, they're
And how many poinsettias are we growing right now?
we are growing about 2,500, Richard. Yep. And so I brought in a pink this year. I haven't done pink in quite some time, so I'm hoping it does well.
So it sounds like the poinsettia is the most difficult to grow. There's plenty of obstacles in their way to grow
Yep, a lot of
perfectly.
obstacles, and then there is also the length of time you're growing them, because they don't even go out. We may have some maybe ready, the white ones, we like to have some ready for the tree lighting. Doesn't always work, but if it, but the red ones really won't be ready until the very first week of December. And that's when we'll do our Christmas or wintertime change out. So we'll start getting flowers in for Christmas, the winter season, about the middle of October. And we'll grow those roughly 6 weeks, and that'll be pansies, dianthus, dusty miller, poinsettias, of course. So you have to grow you can't vary too much off the winter season because of the potential for cold weather. And we'll grow poppies as well, which had a good year last year with those. So, but and for as cold of a winter we had last year, the flowers held up pretty good. So that was good. Another picture of the coleus. This is one of the greenhouses that me and Wayne were chatting in, and that's just a lot of zinnias that will go in the South Mobile bed, and marigolds that will go in the flower clock. So, and then I think I was telling Wayne there, actually, we get these flowers in, we want them to grow real fast, we want them to grow, then while slowing them down at the same time, so we use a growth regulator to keep them tight, compact, so it's a much more full plant, nothing that's real long and leggy and not looking really good. So we've gotten really good with the growth regulators. Our grower, Jamie Rollins, does a really good job with that, keeping the plants, in good shape. So, and it does take, but all parties, because every one of these plants are touched by hands and put in there, and so it's not no machines or anything like that. Just human machines. Picture of some coreopsis there. That variety is called a citrine coreopsis, and you can see there some are tall or some are short, and they were supposed to all be short. So we got to fuss at the supplier about that. That's a picture of the profusion zinnia. That will be in all the corners as what we call our filler plant, and then there will also be profusion zinnias in the South Mobile bed in about 3 weeks. Just a big picture. We have roughly over 13,000 square feet of greenhouse space, and we will have to fill them all the way up, especially for the spring, because you're growing everything in the middle of the winter, so it has to be protected. We grow a lot of stuff outside the other seasons. But anyway, that's all profusion zinnias right there. So white, yellow, and fire. And that is it. So.
And Lynn, if I can say, I think it's impressive as we've had different supervisors or specialists come in, you start to kind of get a feel for a passion for a job. And I told Paul that I knew that once he started talking about the growing of plants, his passion would show through, and I think you've just seen that. I do want to recognize that Paul has been with the city for coming up his 28th year.
Wow.
He serves as our
Fabulous.
supervisor of horticulture. And not only, as you've seen, his passion for growing plants, but understand he also has the responsibilities for all the mowing and the edging and the weed eating of our public rights-of-ways and other public spaces. He also is the manager of our urban forest. Every tree permit that comes through has to be reviewed by him. Also, every application for private developments, landscape plans go through him. He's a busy man, and he has a great team. He is a phenomenal leader. He is, his core abilities are second to none, and I think that the look of our city has his fingerprints all over it in the team that he works with. So I can't say enough about how much I have learned from Paul, and I think that's the ultimate compliment when you get to work with people that you learn from. And and I'm always inspired and motivated by his passion. And his desire to constantly do better, his willingness to explore new options to make our city just as beautiful as it can be. And Paul, I can't say how much I appreciate you taking the time to do this and sharing a little bit of your passion and Fairhope's passion with the community and the other folks around the table.
Well, his passion has really come through this year because I've received numerous comments if I go out and about in town on Art Walk and wherever else. I am constantly being told how well and how great the flowers look this year. How big is your team?
I sign off on 19 different people's time cards, so and that goes from, which is they will all come into play. We do a change out, but that's from the mowers all the way down to the person picking up paper.
So 19 plus you, and if it grows in the dirt, those are the folks taking care
That's
of it.
exactly right. Anything green is under my supervision.
Wow.
But I'm very fortunate to have a mayor and a council that so support our horticultural program, because it does take money to have a city this pretty. So I'm very fortunate there to have the resources to be successful. So I feel like if I'm not successful, it's my own fault.
Well, you've done us proud this year, that's for sure, and always have.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I could add too, I think Paul does a wonderful job, but I will tell you the last planting cycle, I believe it was a pretty heavy rain, pouring down rain, and his guys were still out there planting those flowers and doing what needed to be done. And even in the rain, when it was, a significant, it wasn't just drizzle, this was a pretty good storm, and they were out there still planting and doing what they needed to do. So hats off to the team as well.
Thank you. They are, it's backbreaking work, and you have to find, and I really stress, once you start to really love what you do, and you find a love for it, and then it just makes it that much better. But the crew that I have, they are very, very good, and they do care, and that's what's important. That's what it takes for it to be good.
The results show that they all care.
I think
Thank you
Paul
very
has
much.
superpowers too, because no matter where I am in the city, you're there. And I don't know how you do that.
Well, and I'd run into a landscape architect, and to kind of come off the heels of what Lynn was saying, they were just extremely complimentary, this fellow was, of the colors and the schemes and the way they're put together, and thought over the last couple of years they've just really changed the whole, the way Fairhope downtown looks because of the flower arrangements. And
Thank you.
that's a compliment to you and your team, and
Most definitely. Thank you.
the administration for allowing
That's right.
that to be such a priority. So, but on top of all those other things, now we're trimming trees to put Christmas lights in, just so everybody knows if you see some work going on in the downtown area, that's what we'll be doing, is trimming some of the trees that trucks can catch and pull strings off the trees and try to get them in shape where they'll have a good background for the lights that we put on this season too, so.
And
thank
just
you.
remember, less is more.
That's, that's not according to some of the people that look at them after they start.
So you talk about some things that work and don't work, and year after year, you keep track of that. Do you actually take notes, write this stuff
Well,
down?
I have everything just logged from each season every year, Tom, and I'll take and pull out 3 or 4 years back, and I'll look for 3 or 4 new flowers, and you just try them on a smaller scale. If they work there, then maybe you can incorporate them into a bigger scale. Because like anything else, they'll sell you whatever you want to buy.
Sure.
And a lot of that stuff is such a hybrid that it just becomes not good, and it just won't work. And most of the people, the nurseries from other places will tell you if it's going to work in your zone or not, because they want you to buy stuff from them. So, but we go through a flower broker, and she's the contact person, which makes it very convenient. I can just make a phone call and find this flower, and she can do that, because certain nurseries across the country just grow different things. So, like I'm growing some Chrysanthemum for the white trash boxes this year, and they're not showing me enough color, and so I'm kind of disappointed that may have been a bad choice, but it's only 500 plants, so if it doesn't work, maybe we can pick up something, either some extra flowers that we may have growing or whatever. But you just don't want to buy 7,000 of your border plant and it not be pretty confident it's going to work for you, because you just can't go out and find 7,000 marigolds of the color you want. So nobody's just doing that, and all the bigger nurseries, Young's Plant Farm, the ones in Georgia that sell, they're only growing what they got guaranteed to sell to these big box stores, because of back 10, 12 years ago we had the kind of the boom. Everybody lost a lot of money, so they stopped doing that. So.
Okay. Super. Thank you very much, Paul.
Oh,
We appreciate
you're
it. That was
welcome.
great.
I'm very honored to be asked to do this. I've never been, asked, so it does make you feel good.
We're glad you came. It's super.
You passed the audition, and we will ask you back again sometime in the future.
You'll be planting
Yeah, you
again.
can fill in for me on occasion.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Paul.
Okay, Richard, you had some updating for us today.
Yes, and we're all very excited, as you know, that the city of Fairhope has been identified as a recipient through the Restore Act from BP, and we were identified for several funded projects. One of them is in excess of $6 million for a resilient waterfront. There's a major $10 million for updating and retrofitting and repairing sewer transmission. I know that we've got a $650,000 grant identified for a true comprehensive plan that's not only going to look at growth, but the infrastructure that has to support that growth. And there's also a shared grant for sewer overflows and response and things of that nature. As one of those things that indicates that we're closer than we ever have to practically starting to be authorized to spend this money, Sherry Lee and I last week had to spend 2 days in a workshop that dealt with the rules that will apply to this money. And one, we will be considered a sub-recipient of the grant monies, meaning the state is the recipient. And there's some interesting things. When the state is managing the project, or it's their money to do, their grant money to do a project, they have to follow their procurement rules. But since we are a municipality and we are a subrecipient, we have to follow the Code of Federal Regulations. And so day one was all of the requirements of the subrecipient for compliance, for monitoring, for everything else. And this, understand, this funding is coming directly through the United States Treasury Department, okay? And we will have a pass-through agency that we will be dealing with in Alabama, but everything that we do that's getting reimbursement for these federal grants will eventually land on the desk of Treasury and be verified for compliance before we get money back that we have spent on these projects that are part of this BP Restore Act federal grant award. Day two was on the federal procurement requirements. And that's going to be a challenge because we as a city is very comfortable with our local procurement requirements, meaning requirements that have been put on the city by the council over the years for whatever reason. And then we always have to follow state bid law, whether it's for public works or just any other type of procurement. But in this case, this money has to follow federal procurement. And federal law trumps state and trumps local. And that's going to be a challenge because we're going to have to develop basically an addendum or an appendix to anything that we've created thus far that specifically addresses these dollars. And we're going to have to work with our council to convince them that they can't add all of the little local flavor of requirements that the feds don't want to see or don't require.
And don't care about.
And there is a lot of procurement that is much different than state and much different than the local Fairhope requirements. And so we're going to have to get that, and I think we're going to have, and basically the guidance is those should be adopted by the local political subdivision prior to starting spending money. So that's going to be one of the first things that we have to do. And just so you know, I brought a show and tell item. That is just the federal code for procurement in there, so.
That's just one. We have two binders.
This is just federal procurement for the subrecipient monitoring and management for federal awards. So we've got some homework to do. We've got some housekeeping to do with the council. But here's the good news is the first project, which is the Resilient Waterfront, is an authorized project, meaning that we know that grant has been committed to and is moving forward. At some point in time, we're going to be released to start doing requests for qualifications for our design professionals,
Okay.
all per the federal requirements,
Okay.
not local or state, and moving through all that. So we're excited about it, but I just want to introduce the idea. The mayor sat in for about an hour of this one, and she looked at me and she says, "Oh, we've got some work to do." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, we do." And so that's one of the things we're going to be working on. Hopefully we can get a new purchasing manager in here because they're going to be the person that's going to have to, help put this together and manage it. We do have a grant consultant that we have with us that's going to help us on the compliance side, but we're going to be procuring everything as a city. It's reimbursable, and we've got to do it correctly. And just the fact that they brought in an expert to do 16 hours of workshop with us tells us that their expectation is that we do it the correct way.
Oh, yes.
So that's
Okay.
something we're going to have to do.
Okay.
There was a lot of discussion about keeping us out of jail.
Okay. Definitely, we want to stay out of jail.
But
Well-
the state also is looking at securing a consultant to help with procurement at the state level too. So to assist us, the subrecipients on the ground. So we have a consultant locally that we work with on some
Okay.
grants. And then the state hopefully is going to close a contract with this other consultant that will be able to help us too. So I think we'll get guidance. The state itself, I don't think, has the capacity, ADCNR, to handle. I mean, this is a huge, I think everyone at the state was looking around like, it's huge. I mean, we knew it was, but going through these 2 days was really good for everyone.
Okay.
And I don't think the jeopardy is anybody's going to be charged with any criminality. The problem that you could get into is that you head down a path of procurement and you have spent city dollars with the anticipation that they're 100% reimbursed, only to get a little letter from the Treasury going, we have deemed all those costs ineligible for reimbursement due to failure to meet CFR 200-201.
So what you're saying, what we need to do for the BP funds is to have the council approve for use for these specific projects, BP funding, that we're going ahead and put aside anything we've done before, we're following that procurement, and that procurement procedure only.
That is correct, but here's the challenge. This is a federal law, okay?
Right.
So we're going to adopt that. But we have to have an internal procedures. How are we going to have a checklist
Okay.
that when we go to do these things, that are compliant with this.
Right.
They say that you could theoretically say, we hereby adopt this. But if you don't have a methodology for everybody involved in the process to be, okay, you do this first, you do this second, you do this third to get to this final point. And that's the policy. We also have to develop a procedure.
Then
too.
we need to get a specific team that's going to oversee this, and they all get trained in this.
That would
That's
be
right.
the ideal thing.
And Richard and
Okay.
I talked about having, I mean, we're going to have weekly check-in meetings on this. It's pretty intensive. But to go where we are right now is the Department of Treasury is approving the MIP, which is the plan that was submitted for all the projects that were submitted from the Restore Council to the Department of Treasury. As soon as that's approved, and this working waterfront project is one of those, as soon as that's approved by Treasury, then we can get started on the design phase. But, I mean, Richard's absolutely right, getting started on this procurement and these policies and procedures, it would behoove us to get going on that
Okay.
ASAP and request for qualifications following the guidelines that we were trained in. So that's one thing. The other thing is we had hoped the land use plan was supposed to be part of this MIP that was submitted to Treasury, and somehow it got knocked out to bucket 3, which is the next round. Ideally, in other states, they have submitted buckets 1 and 3 at the same time to Treasury, but for some reason, ours got bumped out. And so it is running, it's lagging a little bit behind.
Okay.
It will be on the heels. We had hoped it would be going at the same time because the project for the waterfront benefits from, and vice versa,
Right.
the land use plan.
Had to get bumped back.
You know, we're not real sure. So
Who makes those decisions?
it was, I mean, it's a Restore Council decision, but it's also their requirements of each bucket, and supposedly, like, I don't know exactly why that happened. I think it goes back again to a capacity issue. We just didn't have the capacity to manage both buckets at the same time at the state. And, you know, that's just the way it is.
Okay.
I don't know. I know other states have already secured consultants that help them with this process before now. So.
Okay. It's a little bit after 4, so we want to get through. Wayne, you have anything to update us on?
Not much, just a few things. You know, the city has had ideas on mixed use downtown over the years, and I think that's coming to fruition now. We've got several projects that are going on downtown that includes mixed use, so it's kind of exciting. I think we have one on the agenda tonight, a mixed use project, and that brings people downtown, you know, more often, 24/7 really. So it's kind of exciting, and there's several projects that are being in the planning phase, the talking phase right now, which would also include mixed-use components to it, so it's kind of exciting. Other than that, that's been all I have. We're still moving on. A lot of projects, very busy, as you all know. Again, working very closely with utilities and Richard and Public Works, Richard Johnson and others. Paul Merchant is on that, so it's a very good team that are reviewing these projects as they come through. Every one of them's getting a very, very thorough review, and every ordinance and regulation is being applied very thoroughly, and so that's a good thing. And I think we get a better project from that, a better product from that also. So that's kind of what's going on.
Okay, super.
Can I go last? Because I'm waiting for a photo to go up.
Okay. Tom?
It's football season, so we've got our first football game is tonight at home, which is a freshman game. But overall, we've got 17 events in the stadium this coming fall, all the way up till November 3rd, I think. Which November 3rd is a Saturday. We host the Baldwin County Youth Football Senior Bowl this year. We haven't had it for some time because people bid on it and they pass it around. But we've got 5 varsity games coming up at home, and freshman, JV, middle school games. It's just a busy time of year, and youth baseball kicks off their registration today, and youth softball's already done theirs and picked teams, and they're already practicing. So busy time of year in the rec department.
Okay.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope you enjoyed your vacation.
I did very much.
I meant to tell Paul that in Amsterdam, I did go to the Tulip Museum
Did you?
and thought a lot about y'all while I was there.
Did you take pictures?
I did.
Oh, good.
And now I'm trying to figure out how to get them off my phone into my computer, because I got to have an iTunes password that
I'll come
I
help
don't.
you.
Well, y'all know how organized I am, and I'm trying to look for that password as we speak. But
You're organized in the ways that matter.
I will. But anyway, in utilities, you know, the one thing we're finding out is that the tank project, which we're trying to get a resolution to file a notice of an intent to terminate the contract tonight, and we'll see how that works. But we did find that we too lose cell phone coverage with some of our SCADA equipment out in the east side of Fairhope, you know, with the River Mill and Quail Creek. So we're trying to put up some antennas that can help us improve that signal, and we're looking to maybe look at some satellite phones in some places if that's a better, more reliable option for us. But we are dealing with that. The termination of the contract, I mean, it would be a 30-day notice, and you know, we've got the bonding company involved, and they'll be looking to try to get other contractors in place to try to finish it, assuming the contractor we have is not going to be able to do that, or when it becomes an issue where the bonding company takes control versus the contractor. We'll know more about timing in this sense, but the contractor that we have is struck out, if you will, with trying to get help that has the expertise to be doing this work for them. So, and I'm not sure how all that's going to work out, but it's we have enough to do without having to struggle through a bad contract. But that's what we're going to be doing, so, and we'll see how it goes. The rain has been
a long project.
It has gone on, and the rain has kind of helped in that regard because our irrigation demand has been down, and so we haven't had to rely on that storage at that tank quite as much. But it's also given us a chance to look at some of the sewer issues that we have with our lift stations that pump a little bit more sewer during rain events. And Craig, with the new video system, came out and showed pictures where these directional bore crews had bored straight through the middle of a sewer pipe, and there's a conduit of telephone or some other utility that, you know, is just allowing groundwater to come into the system, which is a problem, and even a bigger problem when it rains. So we're looking at those issues and addressing those, and looking at now the marina. Wednesday, the engineer that's doing the electrical on the main marina pier and the electrical for that damaged during Nate, that we're going to try to finalize that design at the end of this week and get it out for bid pretty quick. So hopefully we'll be on, you know, track to get some prices and get that done pretty soon.
Super.
And that's about all I got.
Okay. Did you get your picture result?
Well, apparently I'm having a bad wireless connection. They won't go
Did
through.
you forget your password?
So we couldn't get them fast enough. But so I just wanted to tell you about two things. One is the intersection of a section in Fairhope Avenue, our wayfinding sign. It's a test, went up there. It's not exactly placed where it will be permanently because the flower bed, I just asked Richard, when is that happening? He's adding it to the scroll of a list of things to do. The flower bed will be bumped out a little bit, so it'll be a little more visible. But it's just a test. It's not the design or the final. It's a mock-up, and it's out there really to see if vehicles can see it. If you know, people have feedback. We're already getting a lot of feedback on social media, which is great. People are saying, you know, 1 or 2 words are best, and so this is all good to hear back. And so we're taking that all in. And the other thing is, we have a grant-funded project for Library Pocket Park, which we've been working on. One of the parts of that project is to partner with Eastern Shore Art Center to do a mural on that pretty hideous cinder block wall. And one of the great things about that library, that side park, right now it's half blocked off because of construction for the roof. But this is where the kids gather every single morning before school for the walking school bus. So Eastern Shore Art Center wanted to do something fun with that wall. And they're doing this beautiful butterfly mural. It's the background's a bright blue, and they're out there painting. I hope they're still out there now because I know the rain started earlier. But I do have pictures of it. We will make sure they get up on social media so people can see that. And I would love to get feedback on that too. But it'll be really fun for the kids when that
Super.
pocket park gets done.
Super. Well, thank you, everybody. I don't have any particular messages from the mayor. Thanks for coming. And everybody, stay tuned and join us. The work session starts in about 20 minutes.